The avenue through which the Solomon Islands government and its people base their history and their future. Because here in this world body, here are the 5 key messages that I want to bring with this 2-minute video, the 3-4 minute video. The first message is that Solomon Islands would like to create a new mapping of the Pacific region. The Pacific were very vocal at the COP21 in Paris. Without the Pacific, we would not have a Paris Agreement that will save the world. We need another planet. In 1995, Solomon Islands was represented in the first COP in Berlin, and we were moving a 20% reduction to the 1990 levels, 20% reduction of CO2 in 1995. 21 years later, Paris was agreed on, and there is more to Paris than there was in Berlin. Okay, what I want to create is that the Pacific Island nations, we are small in land, but we are big ocean states. When you include our exclusive zones, for example, Kiribati is 150,000 people, but they have 5 million square miles of ocean in their exclusive zone. And if you put together all the exclusive zones of the Pacific Island nations, you could put the continents of Europe, the continent of Africa, the continent of Latin America, and Americas in the Pacific. We house 60% of the tuna resources of the world. So, what is our problem or our challenge? We are ecologically vulnerable. So from Palau to West Papua, we are ecologically vulnerable. This is the essence. And what kind of vulnerability we face? We face climatic, we face environmental vulnerability, also human vulnerability, human insecurity that is happening in West Papua. This is the essence of Solomon Islands' move as chair of the Melanesian Spearhead Group, as well as the chair of the Pacific Island Development Forum, which excludes Australia and New Zealand, so we can discuss our own matters in the room without interference from outside. Although we welcome Australia and New Zealand in the forum because we are Pacific nations, they are there, we cannot avoid their existence, they are part of the geography. So the geography that I'm now mapping is that the Pacific has these ocean states, big ocean states. We are no longer small island developing states. We are big ocean states. Therefore, the environment, the ocean, the care of the ocean, that is the very essence, the care of our land, the care of the seas. So we come with the concept of oceans for peace that will bind us together. So West Papua is part of the Ocean for Peace. We want the people to be freed. We want their people to speak for themselves in freedom. And the atrocities that are committed there, we would like that to stop now. So I've been moderated by the minister. This is the final version of my, in 1 minute, I outline the take-home messages. Number 1. Peace is a fundamental requirement of life. It is not a goal, otherwise you can rest in peace. Member states of the Human Rights Council must bring the world of unconsciousness to a world of consciousness. 3, peace, development, human security, and human dignity are integrally linked. 4, West Papuan people, the indigenous population in West Papua, deserve a focused attention in this world body. And the last, Solomon Islands and the Republic of Vanuatu and 5 other Pacific Island nations take on the plight of the West Papuan people to this world body. Please, we need your attention. The people of West Papua deserve more than we give them at the moment. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention, and let's create a world of peace. A world without hatred, because there's no value in getting angry. There is no value in being hatred. There is no value in getting into an argument that is voiceless, that cannot be taken further than your doorstep. Peace be with you all. Thanks, moderator.
Thank you, Rex. I'm going to ask the panelists if we can keep the time frame, because we need to give opportunity for everyone here to be able to pose questions. Can I ask maybe next panelist, Octo, if you can give your tell us what do you see as the relationship between human rights violations in West Papua and also with the issues raised for self-determination, and how has Indonesia responded to the issue with respect to human rights, and also maybe your involvement as ULM WPP and diplomacy with matters related to during the last 2 years. And maybe I have you keep your within 6 minutes, because we're running out of time, please.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I'll make sure the six minutes. The struggle of West Papuan people actually is not new. And the struggle really started because of a violation of United Nations to acknowledge West Papuans' right for self-determination. And therefore, we were handed over to Indonesia by the superpower countries, including America, allowing Indonesia to manipulate the chance where was given to Indonesian people to exercise our right for self-determination. It was only handpicked 1,023 people forced to join with Indonesia. It was and started there that Papuans stand up, as exactly what Honorable John Wapo said, that we know Indonesia invade our land, and struggle really started by forming a guerrilla group. Once they declared independence in 1971, it was a year after the illegally transfer to Indonesia. And since then, the movement really exists through the guerrilla movement until in the middle of 80s. I was a university student by then, and NGOs starting to raise about human rights violation taking place, transmigration all over the place in West Papua, military operation, and this movement really grew up all the way to 1920. I was, as a journalist, in the biggest daily paper, Kompas, in Indonesia. For 13 years, I report about human rights violation that taking place in, and this is the government's very well planned crimes against humanity that they are doing with impunities. We all know in this room how Indonesia did it to East Timorese, half population of Timorese slaughter, and they able to run away with it. And that machine still operates in West Papua. So in response to this kind of horrible situation, the Papuans really start their move to fight for right for self-determination, using opportunities in political change in Indonesia in a so-called era of reformasi, when Suharto was removed by people power. West Papuans stand up, fight for their self-determination. I was, as a journalist, bureau chief of West Papua, in West Papua, and Papuans conduct the second Congress in West Papua. And under that second Congress, Papuans decide that they will fight their right for self-determination in peaceful way, through their dialogue. And therefore, about 10 years, the Papua President Council, the council that was formed by the peoples, tried to negotiate with Indonesia, tried to lobby dialogue with Indonesia, and no response. And rather, the leader who are elected, who are trying to do this job freely, many of them killed. One of which is Tei Selua. He was slaughtered by special forces, Kopassus, in publicly. And then the commander, who Mayor Artono, who was the lead this execution, instead of getting he was instead of putting him in a jail, he get promoted as a hero of a nation because he slaughtered the separatist leader. This is a peaceful leader who tried to negotiate with Jakarta. This is a leader who recognized and respect Indonesian President Sukarno. When you, as a journalist, when we were there, when you visit his house, Sukarno's photos in front of his house. And he was a slaughter, and that general is now leading the steel operators as a, I think, general, yeah? Now in Jakarta. That's just one example. And the current minister is of defense minister, is the one who honor him as a hero of the nation. So this is the government there who really intention is wipe us out from our land, and they take our land. Today, by the percentage of the population, we only around 30%, and so many academic reports describe that will be about 23% by 2020. So now in the movement, since the Papuans changed into the peaceful movement, in 2011, Papuans conduct Papua Peace Congress. And in that Congress, all Papuans representing, we have 7 regionally customary council. All 7 customary council region elect 5 of us to be a negotiator. This team, we try so many ways to deal with Indonesia, but Indonesian government's ignorant. They continue killing our people, extend the military troops, which is I'm pretty sure Pharaoh will detail more what happening in the latest, because I flee to U.S. since 1999. So I think I just would like to close by, because of your fail to persuade Indonesia come to the negotiation, then the United Liberation Movement was formed. Again, 4 of us that were already elected as a negotiator, re-elected again as a leader of United Liberation Movement. Myself as a Secretary General, Benny Wenda, who is sitting there as a spokesperson, and other 3 are as a member. And we have praised the Lord that in the past 2 years, we have been gaining support from Pacific countries. I've been visiting all small island countries, and we are certain we will get more support so we thank for Solomon Islands and Vanuatu who lead this, and then also for Pacific Island Coalition for West Papua. It is an organization not only leaders but also with peoples. PIANGO is here, and then also many churches. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Okto. We have about 15 minutes left, and we've got 3 speakers left. Can we? Because we need some questions from. Can we cut it a bit down from the 6 because we might run out of time? Maybe ask Laitia, if you can you give your you're as a Pacific Islander working with a wide variety of engineers. Can you tell us briefly what's the civil society's involvement in the West Papua issue? Can you please just keep it short because we need some questions.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, PIANGO is the Pacific Island Associations of Non-Government Organizations. We represent the peoples of 21 countries of the South Pacific, including former British colonies, current French and American territories. The development approach by the civil societies of the Pacific Islands is a little bit different, where after having heard what's being heard, knowing what is happening in the Pacific, we've come to rethink of our development approach. We would like to shape the Pacific to a Pacific that we want. And we realize too that if we keep playing this game, we will always come second. So we look for a game that will make us come first. A very brief example is in rugby, where we are well up by other teams in 15s. Come sevens, we are Olympic champions. We also include a spiritual and cultural approach to development to continue to guide us. And where situations are tough, we create a space where there is none. We value inclusive participation given by our development partners, but we also know that if the synergy does not value local and traditional contributions, then there is no partnership at all. And we've come to prove something that not many people believe, which is that we can meet international principles and standards using local sustainable resources and process. So PIANGO is also different, where the owners of PIANGO own PIANGO. PIANGO doesn't own the people from these 21 countries, they own PIANGO. And moving on to the next slide is very quickly other countries that are represented by their national umbrella platforms that are owners of the Pacific Island Association of Organizations. As you can see, we have categories. There are full member countries. There are also interim members in the next slide. And then we have observers. West Papua is one of the civil society organization from West Papua is also a member of PIANGO. The movement in support of West Papua in the Pacific is not only, as stated by PIANGO, as representing the people of the 21 countries, but it is also an agenda in the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat. It is an agenda of our leaders from the Pacific Islands, which is comprised of 14 island countries. It is also an agenda in the other Pacific Island Development Forum, in which PIANGO is also a charter member. And as you heard, the 7 Pacific Island countries that make up the coalition in the Pacific also has PIANGO as a member of this coalition for West Papua. How come PIANGO? How come the civil organizations are members of these state entities? We give recognition to the Busan Declaration in Korea in 2011, where civil societies are recognized as credible and actors in development. So there's a lot of partnership, there's a lot of realization that inclusive participation is important, and there are certain, also in the MSG, with the relaxation of membership, PIANGO is going to apply to be a member of the Melanesian Spearhead Group. There are other regional organizations based in Fiji and around the Pacific that are all together in this, and some of them, some of the names are listed below. Going on to the second last slide now, the decolonization desk as PIANGO does not only have the West Papua decolonization as an issue. It has a group of Pacific Islands that are still being colonized. Some subtle, some very robust. So the decolonization of PIANGO does not only work on this. It is using the experience and the partnership from the movement of West Papua to also address the issues from West Papua. The way forward for the Pacific Island people through the civil society organization is that we've made a UPR submission. We are going to follow it up all the way. There's the opportunity of listing these countries in the Committee of 24. We support the solidarity movement in Fiji and in the region. We do global lobby, as referred to by Honorable Rex Oro earlier. We lump the Pacific issues together, which includes oceans, seabed mining, COP23, and we are also global members in several global development organizations like you can see the Civil Society Partnership in Development Effectiveness, the International Development Forum, even to the World Humanitarian Summit. PIANGO is currently undergoing discussions with civil societies from these 21 member countries to include the issue of decolonization and of West Papua as an election issue for countries in the Pacific. And on top of that, we are also looking at ways in which the civil societies of the Pacific can also exchange with the members of civil societies from other Pacific Island countries. With that, Your Excellencies, dignitaries, and ladies and gentlemen, Vinagawaliv.
Thank you, Laitia. Can we have Veronica? Can you tell us about Indonesian perceptions about what is going on in West Papua previously? And do people know much, how much support is there for West Papuan with respect to the human rights issues and self-determination? And also as a human rights lawyer, you've defended so many cases. In your view, do most Papuans get justice in the legal system? We don't have time, maybe keep it short, maybe 3 minutes, briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, for the time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with distinguished speakers, distinguished audience, and my government. And so I'm Veronica. I'm a human rights lawyer based in Jakarta. I'm in charge of the demonstrations on West Papua issue in Jakarta, and also been monitoring West Papua human rights violations across Indonesia. So first, thanks. Human dignity. This is the main issue when we talk about West Papua. You see in this picture, it is in 2010. They were treated like this by the police just before they were arrested with and charged with treason law, when they allegedly they were carrying Morning Star, the identity flag of West Papua, when they were going to a cemetery. This, we can see that human dignity is mentioned in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and also the UN Charter. It is placed in the preamble. It means it is the most fundamental rights as human being. And because we already seen this video, I would like just to add some more, a little bit details. The children killed, they were shot in the back. It means they were running away at the time they were shot. And also, of the 17 people injured, some of them are the mothers, the West Papuan mothers. They got holes in their hands. It was because the mothers were screaming, "Stop, stop!" But the police kept shooting. And next, next is a principle of proportionality. This is a very well-known international law principle, and West Papuans have been treated disproportionately very much by the government of Indonesia. And so in this picture, it's on the 2nd May last year. In just one day, 2,109 people were arrested across Indonesia. To be exact, they are all West Papuans. And so throughout the year 2016, there have been almost 5,000 arrests of West Papuans and some Indonesians who speak about West Papua issue. And all these mass arrests are illegal because it's not in accordance to the law, to the national law. And this is all this pattern of the violation of freedom of expression, because West Papuans, this high number is reached because they were not just arrested during protests, but even before. When West Papuans were distributing leaflets calling for action, they were arrested. When they were just in meeting in their secretariat, doing nothing, discussion, they were arrested. And also, under Indonesian law, we are required to submit a notification letter before a protest. And so West Papuans who delivered notification letter to the police station, they were arrested. And so these are all unlawful arrests. And just earlier this week, in Malang, in Java Island, where Jakarta is in, the Java Island, there was supposed to be a discussion about human rights in West Papua. And it was going to be attended by the commissioner of the National Human Rights Commission. But it was banned. It was banned. So we cannot speak about West Papua issue at all in Indonesia. Next. And these are all because of the discrimination. This picture is a West Papuan student last year, and after this picture, the West Papuan students in Yogyakarta, Java Island, they were about to have a protest, but the police blocked them and they couldn't get out until the next 24 hours. People who sympathy wanted to send food and water, but they were blocked too. And so the list of national laws violated is the freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, right to life, right to health, right to education, right to, the anti-torture and the racial discrimination. All these are already, these international law instruments are already ratified by Indonesia, and some are put in the, most of them are put in our constitution, and they are blatantly violated. And this is all because of the government. I'm almost finished, sorry. These are all because the government of Indonesia has been refusing to acknowledge the root cause. The government has been using security and development approach. Development, by building things here and there, while it's not addressing the root cause. The root cause is already mentioned by Kakak Okto before, is the, and this root cause that I'm about to say is actually the finding of LIPI. LIPI is Indonesian Scientific Research Institute. It's a government body which mandated by the government to find what is the root cause of the conflict in West Papua. So my finding is parallel to LIPI's finding, which is the root cause is that the West Papuan people feel they are manipulated historically when they were given the independence referendum back in 1969. At that time, 800,000 people of West Papuan population, but only 1,026 people got to vote, and it was under military intimidation. So, so this all human rights violation is because of the failure of the government to solve the conflict, which caused because caused by the government has been using wrong approach by not acknowledging the root cause. And lastly, besides that, that historical manipulation, next, the never-ending conflict is also caused by impunity. In ICCPR Article 2, it is said that the state should respect and ensure. It means the state must actively and passively be in accordance to the law, obeying the law, And none of this, so instead, the government has been actively killing and torturing and arresting West Papuan people, and impunity by ignoring prosecuting the violators. And also, this is the end. So I would like to say something to my government here. I am an Indonesian sitting here because I want this human rights violation happening in part of my country to be addressed, because the Indonesian state has been given early warnings in October and December 2016, but Indonesia has not replied. And also, back in 2012, during the second cycle of the UPR, Indonesia already accepted the recommendation to bring special rapporteur on freedom of expression, but it has not realized until now. And so I think that the Indonesian government should cooperate with UN mechanism and ensure that the rights of West Papuan people are upheld. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. We're running out of time. We've got still Peter here. Peter, if you can give us just short discussion.
Thank you. You saw the video that Honourable Rex Horoi showed of the aftermath of the killing of 4 teenagers in Paniai on December 8, 2014. I visited that place less than 8 weeks after that happened, and I heard from the Papuan people there, and I heard their fear and their pain at the violence that Indonesian security forces were visiting on them. I returned to that same place in August last year, over 18 months after the killings, to meet with members of families of some of those young men who were killed. And they were exasperated, frustrated and angry after all that time and all the promises from the Indonesian government and the investigations by the National Human Rights Commission, and after visits on at least 3 occasions from military representatives offering large sums of money to be quiet, that nothing has been done to bring justice for the killing of their boys. And that is still the case over 2 years after those killings. And it's repeated on many other occasions, with many other young Papuans being killed by security forces members, and only a handful in the last 50 years ever being brought to justice. I was among a group of foreigners who met with survivors of another massacre when we visited the first time. And we were raided by police, intelligence and immigration officials and taken away and interrogated for several hours. And why? Because they were worried we were journalists who would go back to our countries and report on what was happening. We've talked to many in my 4 visits to Papua in the last couple of years, many people who have been arrested and beaten during those arrests in peaceful demonstrations, and talked to colleagues of those who've been beaten after arrest. In Yahukimo last year, we heard about 6 people who were arrested for distributing leaflets about a demonstration and beaten severely with a hammer. We have met members of the media who talk about violence, intimidation and harassment by security forces when they are trying to do their jobs in reporting about demonstrations. With members of Parliament who are directly threatened and intimidated by police chiefs for standing up for their Papuan people. We have met people who are ex-political prisoners and people who visit political prisoners, who talk about routinely being beaten and tortured in jail and not being given appropriate medical treatment for injuries and illnesses. We have met many Papuans complaining about their serious economic, social and cultural marginalisation. Tribal leaders who've had large tracts of their traditional lands taken away from them unfairly. We've met women on the streets of cities like Merauke who make very little money, having to hire a car to travel from their village to the city, stand on the streets with their children all day long selling bananas and pineapples, sleeping in their cars at night and driving home 3 days later with not much money. We've met young students from schools, Papuan students, who say that their Indonesian teachers do not teach them at all, but rather spend their time making money running the school canteen and kiosks in the towns. We've met many Papuans who cannot afford the tuition fees to send their children to school, and therefore they don't have opportunities for employment in the future. We've met Papuans who demonstrated outside their hospital because so many Papuans died in that hospital in recent years. A Papuan nurse who complained about doctors, Indonesian doctors, delivering inferior treatment and care to Papuans. The list goes on, and you will have available to you many reports which will detail the many abuses of human rights, political, civil, social, economic and cultural. I, as a church representative, have met many Papuan church leaders, Baptists, Kingmi, Gidi, senior Catholic clergy, who have appealed for us to give them support, and they have been given support by many church organisations internationally. And I urge you, the international community, to listen to the appeal of the Pacific leaders to take action urgently to respond to the human rights abuses that have gone on for so long in West Papua. Thank you.